possibility that these incidents are connected. We're, of course, in New Orleans covering the terror attack here, but also this morning, within the same time frame, give or take, about 7 a.m. Las Vegas time, you had a Tesla truck parked outside the Trump Tower there that exploded. There was a person inside that was killed. There were 7 people out on the street that suffered minor injuries, but there's video of this. I mean, you saw it during the press conference. Look at that. I mean, this thing exploded. It was apparently full of fireworks and mortars. And when you heard President Biden address the nation about 20 minutes ago, I found it very interesting that he didn't only talk about what happened here in New Orleans, he also talked about the Tesla Cybertruck explosion in Las Vegas and said no evidence right now that they're connected, but that they are continuing to investigate. I want to bring our panel back because I wanted to talk Cybertruck, but I didn't know we were going to do it this soon. Obviously, the press conference popped up, so we wanted to go to it. Tracy, Jennifer, Dan, I want to welcome you back. Jennifer, what do you make of this? Do you think there could possibly be a link here?
Well, there's some interesting things certainly going on. First of all, look at the time frame. You mentioned that, obviously the date, but look at the fact that both of these vehicles were rented from Turo. Now, Turo is a little bit more obscure. Not everybody rents from Turo. So I find it interesting that both of the vehicles used in the New Orleans terrorist event and this explosive event were both rented from them. So until we know who actually rented and if there's a nexus with that, we don't know. But another small nugget here are the IEDs. We know there were both events. So we're looking now at about 5 similarities in events.
Yeah, and you mentioned that app Turo. I'd never heard of it before, but there is an interesting, comparison here. The fact that the suspect here in New Orleans rented that white pickup truck with Turo, and that the person in Las Vegas also used the app. It's basically apparently almost like an Uber. Like you rent other people's cars through this app, and then you're able to drive their car for the day or for a series of days while you rent it. But Tracy, I'm curious what you think about this. I was actually very surprised that President Biden addressed the Cybertruck explosion during his address to the nation. I expected him only to talk about New Orleans, and I think by pulling in the Las Vegas incident, it's obviously going to make everyone question whether they are connected. It makes me wonder if they know something that they're not telling us right now.
I actually agree with you, Brian. And first of all, the one thing I want to say is this is how you have a press conference. It was clear, it was concise, it was transparent, and it relayed, in my opinion, what the threat was. Is it still there? Is it not still there? That's priority number one. So this, in my opinion, was a very effective press conference. I do think that Biden bringing this up, I think that there is a fear right now in the United States. You have these 2 events that may or may not be connected. And I think what he was trying to do was assuage everyone's fears. But I think the problem that he didn't do, quite frankly, is potentially linked the 2 together. Whether they are or aren't, we obviously don't know the answer to that question. And to Jennifer's point, I wholeheartedly agree. Turo is a much more obscure app. There's only 160,000 cars available in the fleet versus, say, a Hertz, right? If you rent through a Hertz, that has 2.21 million vehicles in their fleet. And so I think when you start putting these pieces together, coupled with the president's conference bringing this up, it really starts to look like this is all connected, whether it is or isn't.
Yeah, and the FBI agent was careful to point out during the press conference in Vegas that they don't believe anyone else is involved. And you're right. I mean, it was a well-done press conference with the visuals, very different than what we saw here in New Orleans. It was a bit of a mess this morning and a lot of mixed messaging, and we still don't really know what to think about whether there's anyone else out there looking to cause harm here. We're waiting for more info. I want to go to you, Dan, though, because you are an expert. You secure some of the world's biggest events. So you know about the planning that goes into securing a big event. How did this happen in New Orleans on Bourbon Street on New Year's Eve when you've also got the Sugar Bowl the same night? How did they let this happen here? How did he even get onto Bourbon Street?
Well, Brian, I think that's a great question, and it's inexcusable. I mean, it's very easy to lock down a perimeter of a special event space. Our team does it all the time. We did it with Sheriff McHale's team in Las Vegas recently for the Formula One. You've got to close down sidewalks. You've got to close down. There's a police cruiser. That's great. That cruiser was there to block the street from a vehicle going straight down the street and to move in case an emergency needs to come through, right? But he's not there to stop anybody from going down the sidewalk. Putting up barriers on the sidewalk, allowing pedestrians through, but stopping vehicles is a common practice. It's something New Orleans PD, the city, should do. Look at what they do at Times Square.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.